What's up everybody, Unrested back again, and today I'm going to try something a little bit different, something I've never done before, and that is a top 10 list. If this goes over well, if you guys like this, let me know in the comments because I could do more top 10 lists about Japan. Some ones I'm considering are the top 10 things that are realistic about Pokemon. For example, little kids wandering around Japan, actually pretty normal. Parents will let their little kids go walk to the train by themselves, and I'm talking kids as young as like 6 and 7, 8 years old. So that's just one example of something I have for the future, but today is totally different. Today we have the top 10 pet peeves I have about Japan. Now, please realize I'm saying pet peeves because these are not complaints, these are pet peeves. Pet peeves are very small problems that hinder just a small bit of happiness, but are not a massive reason that you'd want to actually move away from a country or something like that. They're not life-changing events, they don't really affect anyone aside from your own personal, subjective tastes. And that's all we're talking about today. These are my own personal, subjective pet peeves. Please don't get angry and say, well, if you don't like that stuff, why don't you leave the country? These things are not worthy of leaving the country, these top 10 lists. Overall, Japan is an awesome place. Every country has its pet peeves. Every country has its things that's a little bit annoying. I'm going to go actually from 1 to 10 because the way I write my lists are always number 1 down to number 10. I guess there's really no order in this. I suppose I just wrote it by what came to my mind. So if you want to go ahead and say that I'm placing these in order, you can, but really in my mind I've just written them down. Starting with number 1. Riding bikes through crowds. Yes, often something you will find in Japan is even places where it says get off your bike and walk with your bike, people will attempt to ride their bike through crowds. This can be very annoying and sometimes actually dangerous when you are with small children who do not realize people are not following the rules when they actually are following the rules themselves, those small children I mean. It really is a variation in age as to who does this. I've seen everything from ancient oyajis riding their bike because they're too lazy to get off of it, to Yankee-looking bosuzoku teenagers who just don't give an F and ride through crowds. It is dangerous. It is literally, I mean, when Japan's crowded, it's crowded like a major concert. So it's literally like trying to get on your bike and ride through a crowd of concert goers. People try to do this in places like Dotonbori and Shinsaibashi, which it's insane. If you saw how crowded these places are, which are literally shoulder to shoulder, why you would try to do that, I don't understand. And then ring their bell on top of it, as in to get out of the way when it's a pedestrian zone, and there's literally signs that say no bikes, like Batsu, no bike. Number 2, loudspeakers and microphones inside of crowded stores. Now, I totally understand the use of microphones and all different types of PA systems and megaphones when you are outside of a building and hosting a large event. They totally make sense. I am not completely against those. You can see me using one in Beer Fest 2014 here in Osaka. But there are many stores that try to have crazy sales, fire sales. And for some reason they think they need to use a megaphone or an overly loud microphone PA system inside the store. Megaphones were not used for small enclosed spaces. In fact, if you do that, you end up hurting people's ears, making it impossible to talk to anyone. For example, if you are interested in the product that they are gabbing about, it is hard to even ask customer service to help you find that product because it is so damn loud you can't have a conversation. I've had points where I brought my kids into the store and they're yelling, and my kids of course start crying because they're scared, just, you know, out of their skin. They're like, holy hell, what the fuck's going on? Like, someone's screaming in the store at me. It's just a guy on a microphone trying to sell some sort of fire sale. It's a bit strange. It's a bit strange, Japan. Gotta say that one. Closed ATMs. Okay, so the person who does the money giving is a teller. The person who does money giving all the time from a bank that is not a person is the ATM, the automatic teller machine. The fact that it's called automatic teller machine, ATM, kind of cues you into the fact that it's to be automatic and not need any person to be there. Why you would need to shut down something that is automatic, a machine does not need a break, have a personality, get tired, get exhausted, or even get paid, why you'd have to shut it down doesn't make any sense. Now I can tell you why they probably do it, and that's because the longer you hold on to people's monies in the bank, the longer you can earn interest on it. So in Japan, on special holidays that they just randomly choose, They literally shut down the ATMs and you have zero access to your money. There's no 72-hour access limit like there is in America. You just literally can't get it for sometimes up to a week. ATMs shut down. They don't let you use your card. And it's not like there's covers or anything over them. You literally put your card in there, enter in your code, and they say, sorry, today's a holiday. Oh, so you get the day off too, ATM? Strange. We know what you do in Japan. You're just keeping the money in the bank so you can earn interest off of it. You know, just be truthful with us. No tattoos in onsens. Okay, no tattoos in onsens come from the reason of Yakuza. Yakuza have gangster-related tattoos. These tattoos have all sorts of symbols that allow them access into certain places or say what clan they are part of. If two different people with two different clan tattoos show up at an onsen, they may possibly get into a fight. Here's the thing. There's no such thing as a white gaijin Yakuza. There is no such thing as a gaijin Yakuza. There are Korean Yakuza, yes there are, but most times they are descendants of Japanese people or have some sort of visa or residential green card equivalent that allows them to be a resident in Japan. There's no such thing as a gaijin Yakuza. There's no gaijin Yakuza clans or anything like that. And most time gaijin don't tend to have Yakuza-esque type tattoos. Sometimes even when we do have kanji, the kanji is totally wrong. When we do have dragons, it doesn't look just like a Yakuza dragon. No gangs come to Japan to use the onsen. You know, the Crips and the Bloods aren't coming to Japan to use the onsen. They don't get stressed out and say, let's take a 12,000-mile trip over to Japan to go ahead and relieve some stress in a hot spring. So I understand if you want to do this with Yakuza and people with Yakuza-esque tattoos, but for example, recently in Hokkaido, there was a Maori woman. She had tattoos that were of her family ancestry. She had traditional tattoos on her face, and these literally are just proclaiming her love for her own family. And they're part of the Maori culture. If you don't know about Maori culture, research that culture from New Zealand, and you'll realize how important those tattoos are. They in no way represent anything gangster at all. So she was kicked out of an onsen because of those, because all she literally did was have stuff about her family on her body. If you're going to do that rule, you might want to just stick it to Japanese only. To put that on gaijin, who are never ever in the Yakuza, is kind of strange. It doesn't really have any holding. Number 5, insane overpackaging and recycling separation. One thing you may not know about Japan is that they overpackage the hell out of everything. For example, if you were to buy a pack of Chips Ahoy in America, you would have one entire sleeve holding a massive amount of Chips Ahoy. If you were to buy a Chips Ahoy cookie in Japan, you would have every single cookie in that sleeve individually wrapped into plastic. The outside would then be wrapped in tin foil. That tin foil sleeve would then be placed inside of a plastic cart. That plastic cart would then be placed inside of a paper bag. You would then afterwards have to separate each one of those things into separate groups of recycling for your trash pickup at your apartment complex. Some apartment complexes out in the middle of the rural areas of Japan have up to 23 separate separations. Like everything down to that little plastic ring that connects the top of a plastic pet bottle. You'd have to pop that off, separate it, and put them in 2 different bins. If you're going to do stuff like that, Japan, I'm all for Kyoto Protocol. I'm all for recycling. I'm all for saving the earth for the future of my own children. I'm not for overpackaging then at the same time, because it kind of negates the fact, right? Let's move on. Number 6, lack of wheelchair, pram, or baby stroller access in a country where a massive amount of people are old. For example, last year, adult diapers far outsold diapers for babies. That means we have a huge gray generation. Old people in Japan, there's tons of them. The fact that we don't have wheelchair access to a lot of different aspects of Japan, for example, simple things like public transportation, for example, going on the train. Sometimes you literally have to see 4 eki managers, that's station managers, walk up to the top of the stairs, which are super steep and deep, and carry 4 sides of a wheelchair person all the way down to the bottom. That's insane. Put an elevator in there. If you're going to have it underground, that's okay. I understand. It's a subway. Put an elevator in there too. On top of it, Japan has a huge population decline, and people are constantly complaining that there's not enough access for babies and stuff on trains. They can't get their pram on the train. There's not enough ways to get on the train with the pram. or they want the safety of children, for example, not carrying them down the stairs in a pram. And don't tell me take the kid out of the pram and then carry him down the stairs, because if you have two kids, how do you take the one kid out of the pram and keep control of the second little kid when you're walking down the stairs? I've had this problem with the 2- and 4-year-old before. Anyway, access to things with wheels on public transportation. Number 7. No central heat and AC and no insulation. One thing Japan has never, ever put in its country is insulation, central AC, and central heat. Now, I have heard there are some small parts of Hokkaido that have central heat because it gets so damn cold they just have no choice. People's excuse here in Japan for not putting in central AC or central heat? Earthquakes. Okay, I understand, but here's the thing. California's got earthquakes too, and they seem to do okay with central heat and air. I don't understand the excuse. Obviously, they've found a way around it. Japan, you're pretty tech savvy. I think you could find a way around it too. Central heat and air would save us huge costs on electricity, which we constantly had a problem with last year, had to go on brownouts because of TEPCO's big fuck up in Fukushima. On top of that, we've had cool biz months where we're not supposed to turn on the AC and instead dress down in some of the worst fashion you've ever seen, such as suits with short sleeves on the breast coats. It's retarded, man. On top of it, and by retarded I mean it is retarding the quality of living. I'm not attacking retarded people. I've had people actually say that's the wrong use of the word. Retardation can also mean to stop or slow down or make less efficient. Number 8, people smoke in no smoking areas. Well, you've seen this in my videos. People smoking in no smoking areas, especially things like this, a children's park, where there's a no smoking sign right there on the bench. I've had multiple people come out here and smoke while I've had kids from a preschool that I've taught at before playing in a playground. I've had people come out and smoke while I've had my own kids out here playing in a playground. I've had people smoke in the middle of train stations where it's completely enclosed underground and there's no smoking signs right behind their head, and they don't seem to understand that no smoking sign means no smoking. Although I will say there's a really funny sign if you go out to Roppongi, where this guy wants to be on film here. Roppongi has no smorking signs. I don't know who made that big of a mess up, but if you go to Roppongi, and I think also Harajuku has it, there's signs, because it's such a crowded area, that say no smoking. Well, at least they wanted to say no smoking, but they say no smorking. No joking at all. Common problem, mess up English in Japan. Alright, on top of that, we've got scheduling a day to hang out, number 9. Scheduling a day to hang out in Japan, it can be frustrating. In America, we are very used to asking a person if they want to hang out and finding out that we can do so at least within the same week, if not sometimes the same night of that day. On top of that, in Japan, the way things differ is if you ask somebody to hang out, sometimes they'll get out their schedule book and tell you, looks good in about 3 weeks. Sometimes I've had months until I can hang out with a person. This doesn't really motivate you to hang out with people very much. It's actually caused me before not to ever really schedule too much time with many Japanese friends, and this is not their fault. This is not my Japanese friends' fault. This is not them choosing to not hang out or be too busy for me. This is due to the fact that they are worked 12 hours a day sometimes at their jobs, and their jobs just don't even give them the time. I've had friends who told me about how they have arubaito, which is part-time jobs. When I ask them how many hours they work, they say 8. So even sometimes at jobs where they're saying part-time, they work 40 hours a week, meaning they're still only working 4 hours a day and staying on 4 extra hours, double the time in which they're not paid, giving them little to no time to hang out after. Japan's got to do something about the overwork in this country. Number 10, speaking Japanese and then being responded to in even worse English. Now, I'll be the first to admit, my Japanese sucks. I'm not the best. You can watch my videos where I speak Japanese. I'm still taking Japanese lessons every week. Every week I learn a little bit more. Every week I get a little bit better. I'm not perfect. I'm not native level speaker. I can speak enough to get just about anything I want to get across. I can go to any store, buy anything I want, ask for different sizes, take a taxi, get directions, understand things like that. But sometimes, out of nowhere, people decide that they want to respond in their first time ever practicing in English. And it's English that either number one, I can't understand because it is katakana English, which means it's like, hello, my name is Mr. Takahiro. So, I mean, I can understand something like that, but sometimes you get into words like, for example, the word vinyl becomes binoru. The word virus becomes virus. Even small things like movies, like Batman becomes a Batman. And if you're going to talk to me in English, then talk to me purely in English, and at least make sure your English is up to my Japanese level if you wish to converse back with me in that, because if it becomes even worse, then we're being very inefficient in our conversation. And if I speak to you in Japanese, I'm not angry if someone speaks back to me in English. I'm not angry if someone responds to the person next to me who's Japanese in Japanese. What I am angry is when they think it's a good chance for them to finally practice English for the very first time. And it's so bad and it's so minimal that I can't even understand my own language. If you can't speak it, then just use your native country's language, your native language of your country. And I'll probably understand it a lot better because you'll know exactly what you're saying. Alright guys, those are my top 10. I hope you liked what you heard here today. If you like this top 10 list, let me know. There's more top 10 lists that I can do. I've got a few different things written up. Like I said, I've got one about Pokemon and how parts of Pokemon are real in Japan. For example, sometimes you see those characters who wear those big baggy weird pants that look like Jinkos, but done opposite way, where the bottoms are huge and gigantic and the tops are kind of these weird belt hanging loops. Those pants actually exist and they're often worn by construction workers in Japan. There's other things like, for example, the original, I think it was the first Pokemon game, there's a part where in the American version you can't get past this Oyaji who's laying on the ground because he says he needs his coffee to wake up. When really in the Japanese version he was drunk and wasted on the floor and couldn't move him because he was this passed out salaryman. That very much exists in Japan. There are passed out salarymen on the street. It would be great to capture a few little films of them and show you that it's actually a true thing in a top 10 list. Is that something you guys would like to see? If so, let me know. I am Unrested. If you like what you saw here today, please like, comment, and subscribe.